What exactly did they do right to deserve a place in the next year's World Cup?
Well, a lot of things happened in Namibia during that ICC T20 Africa World Cup qualifier, and really, I'm so proud of the Uganda Cricket Cranes because we managed to upset Zimbabwe, a test-playing nation, a nation ranked far higher than Uganda. We upset them as we managed to beat them in our third game during that campaign. Okay, by then we were making the Cranes were making their way to the World Cup a bit more bright, but that victory is something we shall celebrate forever.
Resounding victory.
Yeah, it was a very historical win.
For someone who does not understand, what is the difference between Zimbabwe and Uganda? Why is it so? If Uganda beats up on Kenya or Rwanda, it is not as big as Zimbabwe.
Okay, you see in cricket there are two types of nations. There are associate nations from association, like when you associate with someone, then there are member nations. So countries like Zimbabwe, South Africa, Australia, England, these countries are test playing nations and member nations of the International Cricket Council. So for us, we are just associates. Even Namibia, it is the highest ranked T20 nation in Africa, but it is not yet a member nation. So beating Zimbabwe was a very huge turning moment for the cricket cranes in Namibia.
Let's talk a bit about because earlier on this week I did see the advert that actually the Cricket Association is looking for a serious head coach. Lawrence Mahatlane.
Serious is your phrase. They are looking for a head coach.
Yeah, he has got to be serious though. He has got to be too serious. He cannot be like someone who is wearing a narrow heel jersey. we need a serious head coach. But then let's talk a bit about the contribution of Lawrence Mahatlane, because when he came in and he actually seemed to come in with a dream that we can actually make it to the World Cup and we can improve. And from the look of things, it gives me an impression that Uganda is making very, very fast strides in the right direction.
Yeah, well, you see, Mahatlane was in Uganda for 3 years as a head coach. He's a South African, just for our listeners. But when Mahatlane came to Uganda, he changed so many things. He increased the number of 12 games that the national team was playing per week. They used to play once in a week, but during Mahatlane's time, they could play up to 3 times a week. Then also Mahatlane increased on the pool of players where we could select the national team. He introduced what I would love to call the Uganda A, because there was the cricket cranes, the cream, then the Uganda a team which was actually also having players who had the potential to play in the national team, but when they weren't yet there. So this team could always give the national team competition, and that could improve their cricket. Then also Mahatlane managed to cite talents, looking at Murungi Pascal, the former baby cricket cranes captain. He was from under 19, then brought to the national team. Baguma Joseph, there is Cyrus Kakulu. So he really changed the way things were done in Uganda that we initially weren't doing. Because initially there were players who had sealed numbers on the national team. Remember back then, because I've been following cricket for quite a number of years, you could know that the national team is going to have Arthur Chobe, the national team is going to have Ham Kayondo, but seriously, the players that have been going to the team have been on merit. These are players who have been performing in the league and in the national team trial games. So that is one of the things that Mahatlane changed. Well, his departure is a bit unfortunate.
In your opinion?
In my opinion. I would also stand with the fans who wish that maybe Mahatlane stayed for another 1 or 2 years. But unfortunately, the board took a decision to let him go.
Apparently, he was supposed to deliver us to the ODI status. That was his mandate. That is what he was supposed to do.
KPI actually. Yeah, he was supposed to deliver us to his KPI, and I think this is where Mahatlane went wrong. Because when Mahatlane failed at delivering us the ODI status, because we were just a game away from the ODI status. Remember last year when the team went to Jersey, if we had won the game against Kenya, which was actually a win we would get, maybe by now we would. Okay, there was another qualifier for the ODI because that wasn't the final one. But then we would be so close to getting the ODI status. But I think, in my opinion, after Mahatlane failing to deliver the ODI status, instead of him coming and acknowledging that, guys, look, I have failed at this. In my opinion, these are my opinions. Anyone can give their own opinion, but in my opinion, instead of Mahatlane coming to acknowledge that, guys, look, I failed to deliver the ODI status, he went to news people, to some news reporters, and they started writing about him, that Simanya is needed in Kenya, is needed in Rwanda, trying to put hype and trying to show that it is a demand, like UCA should just give him a contract. So upon appraisal, when the board members looked and assessed his performance based on KPIs, he actually did not get his contract extended. But then his over 80% win record stands, and something we could applaud him for. But this 20% that he lost had the most crucial games that he was supposed to have won for Uganda.
Interesting. That is it about what happened between Uganda and Coach Lawrence Mahatlane, because when that happened, there was division between the fans. Some want him to go, others want him to stay, and the board itself actually had decisions that it was later on that he came back to